Baker back to the White House, but leaving state was not easy.
It has really been an honor to serve with you. I thank you and I salute you.
Today's economic news won't make Baker's job any easier. The economy's still struggling. And Sam Donaldson's producer, killed by sniper fire in Sarajevo.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. This time, Jim Baker really has his work cut out for him. On the day it was announced that he would leave the State Department to return to the White House as Chief of Staff, Senior Counselor, and boss of the president's re-election campaign, the latest NBC News Wall Street Journal poll shows Baker's friend George Bush with a lot of ground to make up. The poll this week shows Bill Clinton with a lead of almost 20 points, but the Republican convention in Houston should narrow that gap. NBC's John Cochran is at the White House tonight. John?
Tom, when a cabinet officer resigns, the president usually issues a statement expressing deep regret. But George Bush accepted Jim Baker's departure from the State Department with no regrets at all. Just, and this is a quote, deep appreciation.
Bush needs his friend at the White House, and in a hurry. But the urgency is embarrassing, and Bush, refusing to answer questions, read from a statement which barely mentioned the difficult campaign ahead.
He will help me build on what we've started by developing an integrated second-term program of domestic, economic, and foreign policies. And I also want his counsel and assistance as I seek a mandate from the American people to put this program into action.
It was a strange, uneasy changing of the guard. Neither Baker nor the man he replaces, Sam Skinner, was present for the announcement. Last December, when Bush replaced Chief of Staff John Sununu with Skinner, both were present. At the time, although Bush's popularity was dropping, the NBC News Wall Street Journal poll still showed most voters, 52%, approved of his performance. Our new poll shows only 34% approve, his lowest rating ever. That is by no means all or even mostly Sam Skinner's fault, but he is still being shunted to an advisory job with the party. Today, as Baker said goodbye to State Department staffers, he was already sounding less like a master diplomat and more like a campaign strategist.
I think that there is a conservative agenda for helping people and for responding to their needs.
Baker will work to define Bush as conservative and Clinton as liberal. Baker will also try to convince voters that Bush is ready to turn from foreign to domestic policy.
America must have appropriate new approaches for the changes at home, just as we have launched new policies to manage the changes abroad.
If Baker can really sell Bush as a candidate for change, they can cut into Clinton's support. Our new poll shows only half of Clinton's supporters are solidly behind him. But only half of Bush's supporters are solidly behind him.
Baker will bring some of his brightest aides with him to the White House, and sources say they will help package new economic proposals which Bush may unveil at the Republican convention next week. Tom?
Thank you, John. Our poll also shows the president's best issue against Clinton is foreign policy. That's where the president gets his highest approval marks. And so, as NBC's Andrea Mitchell reports tonight, Clinton now is trying to beef up his foreign policy resume. Andrea?
Tom, Bill Clinton is trying to make up for his perceived weakness on foreign policy by attacking what most people believe is George Bush's strength. Delivering what the campaign called a major foreign policy address, Clinton tried to discount George Bush's long resume on world affairs.
When it was clear to all that Yugoslavia was inexorably breaking apart, Mr. Bush and his Secretary of State gave short shrift to the yearnings of those seeking freedom.
On Yugoslavia, Clinton earlier this month got out front quickly, calling for airstrikes to protect relief supplies and to open detention camps.
History has shown us that you can't allow the mass extermination of people and just sit by and watch it happen.
Under pressure from Margaret Thatcher and Senate Republicans, George Bush eventually agreed. Central to Republican strategy is selling Bush as the man who knows what to do when the hotline rings in the middle of the night.
And the American people need to know that the man who answers that phone has the experience, the seasoning, the guts to do the right thing.
Attempting to beef up his foreign policy record, Clinton has claimed to have worked on Capitol Hill.
I was there, and it was great preparation for me. I worked in the United States Senate on the Foreign Relations Committee then.
In fact, he was a college intern, not a policy person. And when questioned about his ability to serve as commander-in-chief,
I have been Commander-in-Chief of my National Guard as a governor for the last 11 years. I have had to make several life and death decisions.
Boning up for today's speech, Clinton consulted defense leaders from Congress, Les Aspin and Sam Nunn. Running mate Al Gore, knowledgeable on defense issues, has become the campaign's point man on foreign affairs. Clinton also has sought meetings with visiting foreign leaders to burnish his credentials. And when asked about his lack of experience...
The issue in foreign policy is, how much do you understand about the world? What are your values? What is your judgment? Do you have the personal strength to make the right decisions?
To support his claim that former governors can become good foreign policy presidents, Clinton used an unlikely role model for a Democratic candidate, Ronald Reagan. Tom?
Thank you, Andrea. And of course, the listless American economy does remain the big issue in this campaign, and in that area, Clinton now has a commanding lead, for now. NBC's chief financial correspondent Mike Jensen tonight on the president's problems with the economy and today's economic news, which does not help. Michael?
Tom, the economy is really not cooperating with George Bush, and that's starting to show up very specifically in the poll results. According to the NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, 41% of those surveyed said Bill Clinton would do the best job dealing with the economy. 19% preferred George Bush.
I've been a staunch Republican for years, but I'm leaning towards Clinton this time. I think we definitely need a change in this country.
That's a big turnaround from 4 months ago when 29% said Bush would do better versus 25% for Clinton. What's hurting Bush most is a stumbling economy. New retail sales figures for last month were a bit better, but at the same time, the government revised its June figures from a gain to a loss. People are skittish.
I'm looking at my closet more carefully to see if I can assess what I really need these days.
People's paychecks edged down again in July for the second month in a row.
Well, I had to cut my spending habits by at least 25% of what I spent the previous year due to the economy.
When people don't buy, companies don't hire. 403,000 people filed new unemployment claims in the latest week. That's way down, but a GM company-wide shutdown skewed the numbers, which had been way up the previous week. One bright spot is stable prices, hardly any inflation. Food prices actually dropped last month.
Food prices are down. Yeah, some things are down. Compared to when, though? You know, when they were at their highest?
But stable prices are one more indication that there's very little demand. People aren't buying with the economy in the doldrums.
It's still growing, but just barely, and there's nothing to suggest that it's going to come bouncing back. Tom?
Thank you, Michael. When Nightly News continues in a moment, Robert Bazell tonight on that mysterious ailment affecting veterans of Operation Desert Storm. And on America Close Up tonight, teenage auto thieves, a deadly menace on the streets. First to protect the delivery of relief supplies to Bosnia, and it warned all the factions there that they could face war crime trials. In Bosnia today, in Sarajevo, the violence claimed an American. ABC News producer David Kaplan fell to a sniper's bullet. He was 45 years old. NBC's Rick Davis has more.
David Kaplan was shot on this road from the Sarajevo airport. He was the first American journalist killed in this conflict. The road is always dangerous. Snipers fire from the hills. Gunmen are often on the road. A bullet went through the vehicle. Kaplan was hit in the back. He died of stomach wounds. David Kaplan was part of an ABC News team that came to Sarajevo aboard a plane with Yugoslav Prime Minister Milan Panic. It was called a peace mission, but the violence never stopped while he was here. Artillery rounds poured in from the Serbian positions on the hills. Panic is a controversial figure. Critics call him the gentle face masking Serbian aggression. But this was the Prime Minister's reaction when he heard of Kaplan's death.
This is not war of Croats and Serbs. These are criminals. These are criminals.
A leading European diplomat was also here carrying a proposal Bosnians find hard to accept. Douglas Hogg of the British Foreign Ministry told Bosnian President Alija Izetbegovic he must negotiate with Serbian forces. No European military force will come here.
No cavalry over the hill. There is no international force coming to stop this. That being so, in the absence of discussions and a ceasefire, the killing will go on.
What Bosnians say to negotiate with the Serbs would be to recognize that they should have a role in the government, and they will never do that. Rick Davis, NBC News, Sarajevo.
There is a troubling postscript tonight to another war, Operation Desert Storm. The Pentagon said today it is studying reports that some U.S. veterans are now battling health problems linked to their duty in the Persian Gulf. More on this story now from NBC Science correspondent Robert Bazell.
Many Desert Storm veterans vividly recall the oil fires. Chuck Weatherman was a Lance Corporal.
The worst place we were at, it was one time it was about noon or 1 o'clock, and we could stand up and not be able to see our feet.
Nowadays, Weatherman says he suffers from breathing problems, hair loss, fatigue, and vertigo.
Can't work, support myself. The military is obviously not going to do anything to help me. Naturally, I'm worried.
Chuck's father, Jim, a 26-year veteran of the Navy, has been collecting cases of other Gulf veterans with symptoms like Chuck's. He's angered when some military doctors say the problem is stress.
If they're stressed, it's because they're wondering what's wrong with them, and they're wondering about the inattention and the insensitivity of the bureaucracy.
No one knows how many veterans have symptoms.
Right now, I've received about 70 cases that I've been dealing with, but I have the feeling that there is much, much more because of the other soldiers on active duty that aren't coming forward publicly.
John Green's symptoms started when his tank unit was moving along the Euphrates River.
I just had a real problem with blurred vision. My speech was real bad, and within the 2 weeks I dropped 60 pounds.
And he says the problems have continued since. Doctors say this wide variety of symptoms could be the result of exposure to the oil fires.
I've seen numerous civilians that have been exposed to petrochemical substances that have similar symptoms.
The Pentagon studies will try to determine how many Desert Storm veterans have health problems and what the causes might be. Robert Bazell, NBC News, New York.
On Wall Street today, stocks were down again in moderate trading today. Never before. Stealing just for the thrill of it. In 1990, more than 1,300,000 cars were stolen overall, one every 24 seconds. The nation's fastest growing property crime. NBC's Bob Herbert reports tonight from Newark, New Jersey.
It's showtime. The car is a stolen BMW worth about $30,000. The maneuver is known as the donut. The idea is to leave donut-shaped skid marks on the pavement. Welcome to Newark, New Jersey, the car theft, joyriding capital of America.
At 5:30 in the morning last Sunday morning, they were doing the donut out here. And I went to the phone to call the police, and when I picked it up and I said, 50, he said, they're doing the donut, aren't they? I said, yes. I said, you know, and they never did come.
Young kids plus stolen cars equal accidents. There have been so many at this intersection that the landlord has mounted highway guardrails outside his house.
How many times have cars crashed into this house?
2 times, to my knowledge.
You saw somebody get hit by a car?
Yep.
What happened?
Car hit him and kept going.
South on Osborne Terrace and just went through the light. A special police task force has been formed to fight the problem. It is found that the problem is young, sometimes very young.
Your mother home?
These youngsters were arrested last night.
Me and the good sergeant pulled up, and they started switching drivers. What I mean by switching drivers is they were taking turns driving a stolen car around.
How old are these 2 kids?
One is 12 years old, one is 14 years old. They were using the floor mats of the car to drive.
Because they weren't tall enough
They
to see
weren't tall
over
enough
the
to
steering
see.
wheel.
They were using the floor mats of the car to drive the car. You see the screwdriver right there on the seat? That's apparently what they use to break the steering column. This is the biggest problem we have right now in the city of Newark is the little kids in the stolen cars.
And it's dangerous.
It's the danger's inside. They don't know how to drive a car. Look how he's operating this car. He'll get killed. I got little kids in the street. I got people walking around with babies in their arms in this neighborhood. And this is the problem we run across.
What's going to happen to these kids?
Hopefully the intake officer will want to put them in the youth house for the night. But unfortunately, it may be overcrowded, and I'm sure we may not be able to get them in there.
But the likelihood is that it won't be any more than one night.
One night.
Okay.
If that.
For the kids, stealing cars is a big game. They get to joyride, do their donuts, taunt the cops. And they seldom spend more than a night in jail. But it's a game with a heavy downside. And sometimes the downside is tragic.
2 weeks ago, a 10-year-old boy was killed when a stolen minivan that he was riding in turned over. 3 days earlier, a 16-year-old girl was run down and seriously hurt by a stolen car. She's still in the hospital. The police themselves are targets. The young thieves get a kick out of aiming their cars at police vehicles and deliberately crashing into them. Sometimes they do it to see the cops' airbags explode. Despite the task force, despite the dangers, the thefts go on.
How old were you when you first stole a car?
11.
And how old are you now?
13.
Have you stopped stealing cars, or do you still steal cars?
I still do.
Why do you still do it?
For the fun of it.
Bob Herbert, NBC News, Newark, New Jersey.
Some youngsters in Newark have been picked up 20 to 30 times for auto theft. Every 24 hours, 40 automobiles disappear in that city.
Louise here
was indicted in New York on federal charges that he bombed a jetliner over Colombia in 1989. All 110 people on board were killed. 2 of them were Americans. Federal investigators blame vandalism for Wednesday night's Amtrak derailment in Virginia. A broken switch forced the train onto a siding where it jumped the tracks. 70 people were injured. In Houston, the Republican Platform Committee wrapped up without compromising its tough anti-abortion line. The Bush campaign had pushed unsuccessfully to include language in the platform conciliatory to Republicans favoring abortion rights. The convention will begin Monday in Houston. John Chancellor is there with his commentary tonight.
Here's something to remember about political reporters. We go to these conventions because they're often great theater, even in the tropical heat and humidity of Houston, even though this is a convention of sober-sided Republicans. And here's why it will be great theater. We have here a party in real trouble. In one recent survey, 80% of those polled disagreed with the way things are going in the country. This after 12 years of Republican presidents in the White House. Only about 1/3 of the voters approve of the job the current Republican president is doing. 60% in a recent poll said Vice President Dan Quayle is not qualified to step in if something happens to George Bush. And what may be the most galling statistic of all for the Republicans, most Americans don't think the outcome of the Gulf War was a victory for the United States. Further, the latest national poll shows Democrat Bill Clinton with an 18-point lead over Republican George Bush. What a mess. Except that it won't look that way. The Republicans produce great political theater. Next week, the Houston Astrodome is going to throb with upbeat themes and optimistic messages for 4 red, white, and blue days. You watch. And nearly all of us in the political press think this election will be a close race by October. Nobody in the press seats at this convention is predicting the outcome in November. It may look terrible now for the Republicans, but this contest is just getting started. Which is commentary for today. See you next week.
See you there, John. It takes a lot of sky, of course, to train flyers, and the Air National Guard is looking for even more sky these days. But NBC News has learned that language inserted into a Senate bill would freeze allocation of any new airspace for training. NBC's Roger O'Neill.
The mountainous terrain of the San Luis Valley in southern Colorado makes the skies over the old Lazy U Ranch critically important for the F-16 pilots training for war. But for the monks of the Carmelite monastery, the noise makes it difficult to pray for peace.
I came here to pray and to do penance and to mind my own business, and it's been hard being a monk with jets flying over at 100 feet.
The pilots want these Colorado mountains for Red Eye, a new military operations area for war games. In Maine, it's Condor, a 200-square-mile region for expanded training. And in 22 other states, the Air National Guard wants more of the skies.
We need more space to operate in. It's important that we train the way we would fight.
Once just weekend flyboys, the Air Guard's new mission, as ordered by Congress, is to fly shoulder to shoulder with active duty pilots, to be on the front lines. Instead of hand-me-down A-7 bombers, which required relatively small amounts of airspace to train in, the Air Guard now has modern F-15 and F-16s, and to fly that plane, pilots need 2 to 3 times more airspace. Just like in the movie Top Gun, though, there are always a few jet jockeys who bend the rules.
Have incident after incident
of these planes actually strafing cars, strafing people, strafing our children, strafing them off at school over here, flying under power lines.
That's why people are against giving any more airspace to the military. The general in charge of the Colorado pilots admits abuses, hopes there will be no more, but Mason Whitney knows once you've been buzzed by an F-16, you never forget. The Air National Guard says if it can't get any more airspace, then the pilots who fly these F-16s will not be ready for war. Roger O'Neill, NBC News at Buckley Air National Guard Base in Aurora, Colorado.
Another matter altogether, Woody Allen once said that he and Mia Farrow were amazed at how little they had in common. They never married or shared a home, but the filmmaker and his leading lady have been longtime companions. Well, today, Allen filed suit to win custody of their 3 last one being Operation Desert Storm. Deadlines, generally in the middle of the night, kept him on the run, but he invariably paused long enough to laugh and roll his eyes and share with me the latest antic of our friend Sam. Sam and the rest of us who get the camera time and attention are only the most visible part of this process. David and hundreds more like him are the anonymous heroes of this electronic family. It makes it all the more unfair that when you first hear his name, it is about his death.
A camera caught this gunman taking 20 innocent people hostage.
None of us had any idea what the man wanted.
From the first terrifying moment
We were all scared that he was going to shoot us, so we got down on our knees.
to the final heroic rescue. The series premiere, eyewitness video, Sunday at 8 after Secret Service on NBC.